The Great Crystal Dome of the Galactic Council chambers had witnessed many historic moments across the millennia, but none quite like this. Representatives from 847 different worlds sat in their designated sections, their varied forms creating a rainbow of alien biology under the soft blue light. Some floated in gravity fields, others breathed through filtration masks, and a few existed as pure energy contained within crystalline vessels. For over 50,000 years, this assembly had governed the galaxy with one simple principle: peace above all else. War was a forgotten concept, relegated to ancient history files that few bothered to access. The galaxy had moved beyond such primitive behaviors, focusing instead on art, philosophy, scientific discovery, and spiritual enlightenment. Every species that joined the Confederation willingly surrendered their weapons, viewing violence as an outdated solution to problems that could be solved through diplomacy and understanding. Elder Vextai of the Ethereal Collective hovered near the central podium, his translucent form shimmering with distress. As one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, he had personally overseen the integration of over 200 species into their peaceful civilization. Nothing in his vast experience had prepared him for the reports now displayed on the chamber's massive holographic screens. The data streams came from deep space monitoring stations positioned throughout the Orion Arm, automated sensors that watched over developing worlds to determine when they might be ready for contact. Usually, these reports documented gradual progress, the development of agriculture, written language, basic mathematics, and eventually space travel. The pattern was always the same across all known species. But Sol 3 was different. Terrifyingly different. The planet's third world showed energy signatures that made no sense according to established patterns of civilized development. The inhabitants, who called themselves humans, had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had learned to split atoms not for power generation, but for destruction. Massive explosions that could level entire cities were being created and tested regularly across their planet. "Look at these readings," Vextai announced to the stunned assembly, his voice carrying the weight of his concern. "They have weaponized stellar fire itself. Nuclear fusion, the very process that powers stars, has been turned into instruments of war. No species in our records has ever developed such destructive capability while still bound to a single planet." The holographic display showed more disturbing evidence. Chemical rockets, primitive by galactic standards, were somehow achieving interplanetary travel. Multiple space stations orbited their world, and unmanned probes had been sent to neighboring planets in their solar system. The speed of their technological advancement was unprecedented. Ambassador Keth Moore of the Serenite Republic studied the data with growing alarm. His species had been among the first to join the Confederation over 40,000 years ago, and he had personally negotiated peaceful contact with dozens of worlds. The patterns were always predictable, or at meeting galactic civilization, gratitude for advanced technology, and eager acceptance of peaceful integration. These humans showed none of those characteristics. The most disturbing aspect, Keth Moore addressed the Council, is their apparent enthusiasm for conflict. Our monitoring stations have detected evidence of global warfare using these nuclear weapons. Entire regions of their planet show radiation signatures from atomic explosions used in combat. They are not just developing weapons, they are actively using them against each other. A ripple of shock ran through the assembly. Several representatives activated their translation devices multiple times, convinced they had misheard. The concept of using stellar fire as a weapon against one's own species was so alien to galactic civilization that many couldn't process the information. The reports continued to paint an increasingly terrifying picture. Humans had developed delivery systems for their nuclear weapons that could strike targets anywhere on their planet within minutes. They had created biological and chemical weapons capable of killing millions. Most disturbing of all, they showed no signs of abandoning these technologies as they advanced toward spacefaring capability. "They are conducting antimatter experiments," Vextai continued, his form flickering with distress. "Antimatter, the most destructive force in the universe, and they are studying it while still confined to a single world. The energy readings suggest they are close to achieving controlled antimatter reactions." The implications sent waves of panic through the council chambers. Antimatter technology in the hands of a peaceful, mature civilization was dangerous enough. In the hands of a species that used nuclear weapons against itself, it represented a threat beyond calculation. Ambassador Keth Moore rose from his delegation section, his forearms gesturing emphatically. "We must act immediately. Every day we delay increases the risk that these humans will achieve faster than light travel. Imagine such beings spreading throughout the galaxy, carrying their weapons and their appetite for warfare to every world they encounter." The Council's military advisors, representatives from the few species that still maintained knowledge of ancient defense systems, presented their analysis. The humans' technological development followed no known pattern. Instead of progressing from warfare to peace as all civilized species had done, they appeared to be perfecting warfare while simultaneously advancing toward galactic capability. They have turned their entire planetary infrastructure into a war machine, reported General Zarketh of the former militant worlds. Their industrial capacity, their scientific research, their educational systems, everything is geared toward improving their ability to destroy. We have never encountered anything like this in galactic history. The debate that followed was brief but intense. Some representatives argued for immediate military intervention, while others suggested careful observation from a safe distance. A few optimistic voices proposed that the humans might abandon warfare once they realized they were not alone in the universe. Elder Vextai ended the discussion with a grim declaration: "We cannot take that risk. If these humans achieve galactic travel while maintaining their weapons and their warrior culture, they could threaten every peaceful world in the galaxy. We must reach them first." The vote was unanimous. The galaxy's most accomplished peace envoys would depart immediately for the Sol system, carrying offers of membership in the Confederation and access to advanced technology. Surely, once the humans understood that warfare was unnecessary in a civilized galaxy, they would abandon their destructive ways. The Council had successfully integrated 847 species into peaceful coexistence. How difficult could one more be? The 12 ships of the Galactic Confederation's Peace Envoy fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system with perfect coordination. Ambassador Kethmore stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Harmony watching the blue and green world of Earth grow larger on the main viewing screen. After traveling for 3 months through the void between stars, they had finally reached the home of the mysterious humans. The fleet consisted of the Confederation's most beautiful vessels, each one a work of art designed to inspire wonder and peace in first-contact situations. Their hulls were made from crystalline materials that caught and reflected light in patterns that had never failed to amaze newly contacted species. Symbols of universal peace covered every surface: mathematical equations, musical harmonies, and images representing growth, harmony, and cooperation between different forms of life. Ambassador Kethmore had performed this same ceremony 4 to 7 times during his long career as a peace envoy. The process was always the same and always successful. They would appear over major population centers, broadcast messages of peace and welcome, demonstrate their advanced but peaceful technology, and within days the new species would be eager to join galactic civilization. Most worlds saw their arrival as the greatest moment in their planet's history. As the 12 ships moved into position above Earth's largest cities, Kethmore activated the standard first contact protocols. Mathematical proofs appeared in the skies above New York, London, Tokyo, and Beijing. Simple equations that demonstrated intelligence and peaceful intent. Prime numbers, geometric patterns, and basic physics formulas painted themselves across the clouds in gentle, glowing light. The ships began broadcasting harmonic frequencies on all communication channels, beautiful music designed by the galaxy's greatest artists to inspire feelings of calm and wonder. These were the same melodies that had brought tears of joy to hundreds of newly contacted worlds. Holographic displays materialized in Earth's atmosphere, showing images of the galaxy's greatest achievements: cities floating in space, worlds transformed into gardens, species from across the stars working together in perfect harmony. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned, except for one crucial detail: the humans were not responding with awe or wonder. Within the first hour of the fleet's arrival, every military base on Earth had activated its highest alert status. Instead of crowds gathering in the streets to marvel at the alien visitors, armed forces were mobilizing worldwide. Radar installations that had been quietly monitoring space suddenly came alive with activity, tracking the alien ships with mechanical precision. The humans' first communication attempt came not from their political leaders or scientists, but from something called the United Earth Defense Initiative. The voice that reached the Eternal Harmony was calm, professional, and utterly lacking the excitement that usually accompanied first contact. Unknown vessels, this is Director Hyunwoo Park of the United Earth Defense Initiative. State your intentions and provide technical specifications for your craft, including weapon systems and defensive capabilities. Ambassador Kethmore's translator device struggled with several concepts in that brief message. The idea of demanding weapon specifications during a peaceful first contact was so alien to galactic civilization that the translation matrix had no proper framework for processing it. More disturbing was the casual way the human had identified himself as part of something called a defense initiative, implying that their entire planet was organized around the concept of defending against threats. Kethmore composed himself and activated the standard greeting protocol. His image appeared on communication screens across Earth, showing his tall, graceful form with its four arms spread wide in the universal gesture of peaceful greeting. His species had evolved on a world of perpetual twilight, giving them an ethereal, almost angelic appearance that had never failed to inspire trust. "Greetings, people of Earth," he began, his voice carrying the warm tones that had successfully established contact with dozens of species. "I am Ambassador Kethmore of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace, seeking to welcome your species into the greater community of galactic civilization. We bring gifts of knowledge, technology, and friendship from 847 worlds that have chosen to live together in harmony." The response came back within minutes, and it was nothing like what Kethmore expected. "Ambassador Kethmore, this is Director Park. Thank you for your peaceful intentions. However, before we proceed, we need answers to several questions. How many ships are currently in your fleet? What are their offensive and defensive capabilities? How many more ships can you bring to this system if needed? What other species in your confederation maintain military forces, and what are their technological levels?" Ambassador Kethmore found himself staring at the communication display in confusion. His advanced empathic sensors, designed to read the emotional states of alien species, were sending back readings that made no sense. The human's emotional signature showed no fear, no wonder, no excitement about meeting galactic civilization. Instead, there was something that his translator could only describe as tactical assessment, a cold, calculating evaluation that treated the peaceful envoys as potential threats to be analyzed and catalogued. General Minute-Ho Lee appeared on the screen next to Director Park, his uniform covered with symbols that Kethmore's cultural database identified as military rank insignia. The human military leader looked directly into the camera with eyes that seemed to be measuring the alien ships for weaknesses. "Ambassador, we appreciate your peaceful approach," General Lee said with a tone that somehow managed to sound both polite and threatening. "However, Earth has learned that it's always wise to understand the full military picture before entering into any agreements. We're sure you understand." Dr. So-Young Kim, identified as Earth's leading expert on alien biology, joined the conversation with questions that sent chills through the entire Envoy crew. She wanted to know about the physical capabilities of other species, their technological limitations, their historical conflicts, and most disturbing of all, which species might pose future threats to human interests. As the conversation continued, Kethmore began to realize that something was fundamentally wrong with humanity's approach to first contact. Every other species he had encountered viewed the galaxy as a vast community they were eager to join. They saw other worlds as potential friends and teachers. The humans were evaluating the galaxy as a potential battlefield. When Director Park smiled and said, "Peace is good, but we need to know about the others who might not be so friendly," his expression carried an undertone that made every alien on the bridge uncomfortable. It was the look of a predator sizing up both threats and opportunities. Ambassador Kethmore had successfully brought peace to 4 to 7 worlds, but as he looked at the tactical displays showing human military forces mobilizing across their planet, he began to wonder if this 48th contact might be very different from all the others. The negotiation chamber aboard the Eternal Harmony had been carefully designed to create feelings of peace and cooperation. Soft lighting filtered through crystal panels, creating gentle rainbows that danced across the curved walls. The air carried subtle fragrances from dozens of worlds, each one chosen to promote calm discussion and mutual understanding. Floating seats adjusted automatically to accommodate different body types, while translation devices ensured perfect communication between species. Ambassador Kethmore had used this same chamber to welcome 4 to 7 different species into galactic civilization. The room had witnessed the signing of peace treaties that ended ancient wars, trade agreements that lifted entire worlds out of poverty, and cultural exchanges that enriched the entire galaxy. Every species that had ever sat in these chairs had left as friends and allies. The human delegation that now occupied the chamber was unlike any he had ever encountered. Director Hyun-Woo Park sat calmly in his floating chair, his dark eyes taking in every detail of the alien technology around him. Unlike previous first-contact species who had been overwhelmed by the advanced systems, Park seemed to be analyzing how everything worked. His fingers occasionally tapped against his tablet, making notes about what he observed. Dr. So-Young Kim sat to his right, her scientific instruments discreetly scanning the alien materials and energy sources. She had already identified 17 different technologies that could potentially be weaponized, and her initial biological scans of the aliens had revealed several interesting weaknesses. Her background in xenobiology was proving invaluable in this unprecedented situation. General Minute-Ho Lee occupied the chair to Park's left, his military bearing evident even in the peaceful setting. His eyes never stopped moving, cataloging exit routes, potential defensive positions, and the likely locations of the ship's critical systems. Everything about his posture suggested a man ready for violence at a moment's notice. Admiral Ha-won Choi of the newly formed Space Command had requested permission to attend the negotiations personally. As the highest-ranking officer in humanity's space-based military forces, she wanted to evaluate alien technology and tactics firsthand. Her questions during the preliminary discussions had focused entirely on ship design, weapons systems, and defensive capabilities. Ambassador Kethmore began his presentation with the same eloquent speech that had successfully convinced every other species to join galactic civilization. He spoke of the wonders that awaited humanity among the stars, worlds transformed into gardens, cities that floated through space, technology that could eliminate disease and hunger forever. He described the vast libraries of knowledge accumulated over 50,000 years, art forms that could touch the soul in ways no single species could imagine, and scientific discoveries that revealed the deepest secrets of the universe. The offer was generous beyond measure. Humanity would be given membership in the Galactic Confederation with full voting rights. They would receive access to post-scarcity technology that could end want and suffering on their world. Advanced medical knowledge would eliminate disease and extend human lifespans to match those of longer-lived species. Clean energy systems would restore their damaged environment. Most importantly, they would gain the protection and friendship of 847 worlds that had learned to live in perfect harmony. All they had to do was abandon warfare and surrender their weapons, just as every other civilized species had done. Director Park listened to the entire presentation without interruption, occasionally nodding politely as the ambassador described the benefits of galactic citizenship. When Kethmore finished, Park smiled that same unsettling expression that had made the alien diplomats uncomfortable during their first communication. "Your offer is indeed generous, Ambassador," Park began, his voice carrying a tone that somehow managed to sound grateful and threatening at the same time. "We are honored that the galaxy wishes to welcome humanity into such an advanced civilization. However, we do have some conditions of our own." The human counterproposal sent shock waves through the entire alien delegation. Ambassador Kethmore's empathic senses registered disbelief, confusion, and growing alarm from his staff as Park outlined humanity's terms. Humanity wanted full membership in the Confederation, but they insisted on maintaining complete sovereignty over their solar system. They would accept advanced technology, but they demanded the right to study and modify it for their own purposes. They were interested in peaceful expansion to other worlds, but only if they could establish their own colonies under human control. Most disturbing of all, they wanted to keep their military forces intact and retain all of their weapons technology. Not only that, but they planned to establish what they called a space defense fleet using human-designed warships equipped with both alien and human weapons systems. Ambassador Kethmore struggled to process what he was hearing. In 50,000 years of galactic history, no species had ever requested to join the Confederation while maintaining military forces. The very concept was contradictory to everything the galaxy had achieved. "You must understand," Kethmore explained with the patience that came from decades of diplomatic experience, "warfare has been obsolete for over 50 millennia. Military technology is strictly forbidden throughout galactic civilization. We have moved beyond such primitive solutions to conflict. Every species that joins the Confederation willingly surrenders their weapons because they understand that violence has no place in a truly advanced society." The word primitive hung in the air for a moment before General Lee reacted. His voice carried an edge that made every translation device in the room spark with warning signals as electromagnetic fields fluctuated with his emotional intensity. "Primitive," he repeated, leaning forward in his chair. "Director, I think our guests don't understand human history." Dr. Kim activated her portable holographic projector, filling the center of the chamber with a detailed map of Earth. Red zones began appearing across every continent, marking locations where human conflicts had taken place throughout their recorded history. The display showed an unbroken pattern of warfare stretching back thousands of years, with each red zone representing battles, wars, and conflicts that had shaped human civilization. "We've been perfecting combat for 10,000 years, Dr. Kim explained with the calm tone of a scientist presenting research data. "Every generation, every decade, every year, we have been learning new ways to fight more effectively. We have never stopped innovating when it comes to warfare." Admiral Choi leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Ambassador Kethmore with an intensity that made the alien diplomat's advanced threat assessment systems activate involuntarily. You've had peace for 50,000 years, she said quietly. We've had continuous warfare for 10,000 years. Which civilization do you think has a better understanding of violence and how to use it effectively? The implications of her words sent chills through every member of the alien delegation. They were not dealing with a species that had recently discovered warfare and might be convinced to abandon it. They were facing beings who had spent their entire recorded history becoming experts at killing. Director Park delivered humanity's final position with that same smile that never seemed to reach his eyes. We appreciate your offer of peace, Ambassador. We truly do. But we're keeping our weapons. All of them. If the galaxy has a problem with that arrangement. He gestured casually toward his military advisors. Well, we'll be happy to demonstrate why every other species in the universe decided to give up theirs. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft humming of the ship's systems and the barely audible sound of alien translation devices struggling to process the concept of a species that viewed galactic peace as a weakness to be exploited rather than a goal to be achieved. The silence in the negotiation chamber had stretched for nearly an hour after humanity's final ultimatum. Ambassador Keth Moore and his diplomatic team exchanged worried glances, their advanced communication devices buzzing with encrypted messages from the Galactic Council. The situation had deteriorated far beyond anything in their extensive first contact protocols. Captain Zorketha's voice crackled through the communication system from the outer edges of the Sol system. As commander of the Confederation battlecruiser Harmony's Light, he had been monitoring the negotiations from a safe distance. His ship represented the pinnacle of galactic military technology, though it had not seen actual combat in over 20,000 years. Ambassador, with respect, I believe these humans simply do not understand what they are dealing with, Zorketh transmitted privately to the Envoy fleet. Perhaps a demonstration of our capabilities would help them see reason. A peaceful show of force has proven effective with stubborn species in the past. Ambassador Kethmore hesitated. The Harmony's Light was 3 kilometers of gleaming metal and crystal, equipped with energy shields that could deflect asteroid impacts, matter conversion systems that could reshape planets, and gravity manipulation technology that could alter the orbit of moons. It was designed to inspire awe and demonstrate the advanced nature of galactic civilization. Very well, Captain, Kethmore replied reluctantly. But this must be a peaceful demonstration only. We are not here to threaten or harm anyone. The massive battlecruiser moved from its position at the edge of the solar system toward Earth's orbital space. Its hull reflected the light of Sol in brilliant patterns, creating a light show visible from the planet's surface. The ship's speakers began broadcasting a message on all frequencies as it approached. Captain Zorketha's voice carried the tone of a teacher addressing particularly slow students. People of Earth, observe the power that has maintained peace throughout the galaxy for 50,000 years. The Harmony's Light represents technology beyond your current understanding. We display this not as a threat, but as an invitation to join a civilization that has moved beyond primitive warfare. The human response was swift and completely unexpected. Admiral Hwan Choi appeared on communication screens throughout the alien fleet, her expression calm but determined. Captain Zorketh, we appreciate your demonstration. In the spirit of cultural exchange, we would like to show you some human technology as well. We are launching one of our newer spacecraft to meet you. From Earth's orbital shipyards, a vessel began moving toward the Harmony's Light. The human ship looked nothing like the elegant alien craft. Where the Confederation vessel was smooth curves and gleaming surfaces, the human ship appeared to be a collection of metal plates welded together with visible seams and mechanical joints. Alien sensors detected primitive chemical propulsion systems, basic life support, and what appeared to be centuries-old computer technology. The ship identified itself as the Sol's Vengeance, commanded by Captain J. Minute Yoon of the Earth Space Defense Force. To the aliens watching, it looked like a piece of industrial machinery that had been hastily converted for space travel. The hull was covered with antennas, sensors, and what appeared to be maintenance hatches. Nothing about it suggested advanced technology or military capability. Captain Zorketh studied the approaching human vessel with amusement. His tactical officers reported that the ship's power output was minimal compared to Confederation standards. Its weapon systems appeared to be simple kinetic projectile launchers, the kind of primitive technology that most species abandoned within a few centuries of achieving spaceflight. Their entire vessel could fit inside one of our shuttle bays, observed Commander Veltara, the Harmony's Light's tactical officer. The power readings suggest they are using nuclear fission for energy generation. Their weapons appear to be simple metal projectiles propelled by chemical explosives. Captain Zorketh opened a communication channel to the human ship, his voice filled with condescension. Captain Yoon, Your vessel is impressive for such early-stage technology. However, I believe a demonstration of our defensive capabilities would be educational. I will now disable your weapon systems using a standard electromagnetic pulse. This is completely harmless to your crew, but it will show you the difference between our technological levels. The electromagnetic pulse that erupted from the Harmony's light was designed to safely shut down electronic systems without causing permanent damage. It was a standard procedure used during first contact with aggressive species, allowing Confederation ships to neutralize primitive weapons while avoiding casualties. The pulse spread out in a perfect sphere, encompassing the human vessel completely. Nothing happened. Captain Zorketh frowned at his instruments. Commander Veltara, why are their systems still operational? Increase the pulse intensity. A second, more powerful electromagnetic burst swept over the Soul's Vengeance. The human ship continued on its course without any change in speed or direction. Its communications remained active, and its weapons systems showed no signs of being affected. Captain, Commander Veltara reported with growing confusion, their weapons don't appear to be electronic. Our scans show purely mechanical systems throughout their vessel. Captain J. Minute Yoon's voice came through the communication system with what sounded almost like amusement. Thank you for the light show, Captain Zorketh. Now allow us to demonstrate human engineering. What happened next would be analyzed by galactic military historians for generations to come, though few would believe the initial reports. The Soul's Vengeance opened what appeared to be simple mechanical hatches along its hull. From these openings emerged a series of projectiles that looked deceptively simple, metal rods about 3 meters long and 10 centimeters in diameter. They appeared to be made of simple tungsten, with no visible guidance systems or explosive warheads. The launch mechanism was elegantly primitive. Magnetic coils, powered by the ship's nuclear reactor, accelerated the tungsten rods to 12% of light speed using purely mechanical rail systems. There were no electronics that could be disabled, no guided systems that could be confused, and no energy signatures that the Confederation sensors were designed to detect. The rods struck the Harmony's light's energy shields at relativistic velocity. The shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and guided missiles, had no defense against simple metal moving at such incredible speed. The tungsten rods passed through the defensive barriers as if they didn't exist, penetrating the battlecruiser's hull and continuing through its internal structure. In the space of 3 seconds, the Harmony's light was reduced to expanding debris and a brief flare of atomic fire as its power systems overloaded. The silence that followed was broken by Admiral Choi's calm voice broadcasting to the remaining Envoy ships. That was a warning demonstration. Our main defense fleet will launch in 6 hours. We suggest you withdraw to a safe distance while we reconsider the terms of our relationship. Captain Yoon's follow-up message was delivered with the tone of someone welcoming guests to his home, except the words carried a meaning that chilled every alien who heard them. Welcome to human space. Please state your business clearly, or prepare to be boarded and searched. As the debris from the Harmony's light continued to spread through space, the surviving members of the Envoy fleet realized they were no longer conducting a peaceful first contact mission. They were now trapped in a solar system controlled by beings who had just demonstrated that 50,000 years of galactic military superiority meant nothing against weapons that were elegantly, terrifyingly simple. The communication chamber aboard the Eternal Harmony felt different now. Where once there had been an atmosphere of peaceful negotiation, now there was only the cold reality of a first contact mission that had gone catastrophically wrong. Ambassador Kethmore stood before the main communication screen, his forearms trembling slightly as he prepared to send what would be the most important message in galactic history. The debris field that had once been the mighty battlecruiser Harmony's light continued to spread through space behind him, visible through the chamber's viewing ports as tiny points of light reflecting the distant sun. 3 kilometers of the galaxy's most advanced military technology had been reduced to scattered metal and plasma in less than 3 seconds. Director Hyun-Woo Park appeared on the communication screen, his image crystal clear despite the vast distance between Earth and the surviving Envoy ships. He looked exactly as calm and composed as he had during their first meeting, as if the destruction of a galactic battlecruiser was merely another item to be checked off his daily schedule. Flanking him were the military leaders who had made this disaster possible. Dr. So-Young Kim stood to his right, her scientific instruments still recording data about alien technology even during this final communication. General Minute Ho Lee maintained his military bearing, his eyes constantly scanning the aliens on screen as if evaluating them for future combat scenarios. But it was the new figure that made Ambassador Kethmore's advanced threat assessment systems activate with warning signals throughout his nervous system. General Eugene Song, commander of something called Earth's Expeditionary Forces, wore a uniform different from the others. Where the other humans wore the insignia of planetary defense, her uniform bore symbols that suggested something far more ambitious and terrifying. Your demonstration was quite educational, Ambassador, Director Park began, his voice carrying that same unsettling tone that managed to sound both polite and threatening. We learned something very important about galactic civilization today. 50,000 years of peace has made you soft. You've forgotten what real warfare looks like. Ambassador Kethmore tried to respond, to salvage something from this diplomatic catastrophe, but Park continued speaking with the calm authority of someone who now held all the advantages. We appreciate the lesson, though. It confirmed what we suspected about your technology. Very advanced, very impressive, but designed by people who have never had to fight for their lives. Your weapons are built to intimidate, not to kill efficiently. Your defenses are designed to stop other civilized beings, not warriors who have spent centuries perfecting the art of destruction. Dr. Kim stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed detailed schematics of human technology. But these weren't the crude mechanical systems the aliens had observed. These diagrams revealed the true nature of human engineering, every system, every component, every innovation designed with one primary goal in mind. Every piece of technology you've seen from humanity has one fundamental purpose, Dr. Kim explained with the calm tone of a scientist presenting research findings. We have spent the last 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing other humans more efficiently. Our space rockets? They started as intercontinental ballistic missiles designed to deliver nuclear warheads across continents. Our nuclear power plants? They are modified weapons factories that also happen to generate electricity. She gestured to images of Earth's industrial complexes, and the aliens could see the terrifying truth in the data. Factories that could produce consumer goods during peacetime could be converted to weapons manufacturing within days. Civilian spacecraft used the same engines as military missiles. Even Earth's communication satellites carried systems that could be repurposed for military targeting. Our entire industrial base is a war machine, Dr. Kim continued. We can convert planets into fortress worlds, turn asteroid belts into weapons platforms, and transform entire solar systems into military strongholds. This isn't theoretical capability, we've been planning for interplanetary warfare since we first looked at the stars. General Eugene Song activated her own display, and Ambassador Kethmore felt his species' equivalent of blood turning cold as he saw what humanity had been doing while the negotiations were taking place. Hundreds of ships were departing from Earth's orbital facilities, but these weren't the crude vessels the aliens had expected. These ships aren't carrying diplomats or scientists, General Song explained, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. They're transporting soldiers, weapons engineers, and military construction teams. We're not planning to join your peaceful galaxy, Ambassador. We're preparing to defend against whatever threat made 847 different species decide to abandon their weapons simultaneously. The implications of her words hit the alien delegation like a physical blow. Admiral Hwan Choi leaned into view, her expression showing the calculating intelligence of someone who had spent years studying galactic military history through the lens of human tactical doctrine. You see, we've been asking ourselves an important question, Admiral Choi said, her tone carrying the weight of inevitable revelation. What kind of threat would be so terrifying that 847 completely different species would all agree to disarm at the same time? What's out there in the galaxy that scared everyone so badly they decided being defenseless was preferable to being ready for war? Ambassador Kethmore's empathic senses detected the shift in human emotional patterns. They weren't asking rhetorical questions, they had already figured out the answer. The horrified expressions on the faces of his diplomatic team confirmed what the humans suspected. Director Park nodded slowly, his smile now carrying the grim satisfaction of someone whose worst suspicions had been proven correct. We thought so. The galaxy isn't actually peaceful, is it? You've all been hiding from something, hoping it would never find you. Well, don't worry about Earth, Ambassador. Whatever's coming, we'll handle it. As the communication ended and the human image faded from the screen, Ambassador Kethmore realized that the surviving Envoy ships were no longer conducting a diplomatic mission. They were now refugees fleeing a solar system that had transformed from a potential new member world into the galaxy's newest military superpower. The long-range sensors painted a picture that would haunt galactic civilization for generations to come. Throughout the Sol system, massive construction projects were already beginning. Asteroids were being moved into defensive positions and converted into weapons platforms. Earth's moons were being fortified and turned into military bases. The orbital shipyards that had produced the Sol's vengeance were expanding at an incredible rate, with new construction facilities being built every day. Most terrifying of all, the humans were building not for defense, but for offense. The ships emerging from their factories were designed for deep space operations, equipped for long-range combat and planetary assault. They were preparing not just to defend their home system, but to take the fight to whatever enemy the galaxy had been hiding from for 50,000 years. The galaxy had sent peace envoys to Earth, offering humanity a place in their carefully maintained civilization of former warriors who had chosen to forget how to fight. Humanity's answer was to begin preparing for the real war, the one that had been coming all along, the one that every species in the galaxy had tried to pretend didn't exist by surrendering their weapons and hoping salvation would come from somewhere else. Now it would come from the one species that had never stopped preparing for battle.